Mm-mm-mm-mm. What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the land of Reckless Logic. Please make sure you guys pop that like button, hit the subscribe button, and please smack that notification bell so do not miss any of my posts from me. Let's get straight into this video because you guys already know what we are here to talk about. So hey y'all, how y'all doing? I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I just got off work not too long ago, but we're gonna knock these videos out and we're gonna get into the things and we're gonna talk about the people, okay? So let's first things first, let's get into Karlous Miller and his ignorant ass and what he decided to give his opinions on homelessness, and let's talk about his views. Let's get into some things because it was a few things that I heard that it was very interesting to me. So this is brought to you guys by the Neighborhood Talk. Now it says, wait, what? Comedian Karlous Miller says homelessness is not everyone's problem and that drug addiction is not a disease. Cast members of College Hill are shocked, and it says here, and I quote, everybody got problems. They chose drugs over homes. Girl, let's get into it, y'all. Let me press play. Ooh. Ooh.
My hopes are that we can uplift that lower economic spectrum of the population, right, that are living on the streets.
Gary?
I see it every day when I drive home.
Gary?
I know millionaires and billionaires drive past those people every day.
It's not their problem.
And keep it moving. It's all of our problems, ultimately. Absolutely.
I don't believe that.
Why not?
I don't.
Why not?
I just don't.
I've never heard someone say
Gary?
homelessness is not their problem. What? It's not your problem. I've never heard that before.
What?
It's not my problem.
The people who are in power right now, who sit at their office every day and push the button and say, these billions go over here, these billions go over here, that can be ended overnight if the people who were in power decided that that was the priority. Every problem in the world.
Okay, I'm gonna have to do this segment by segment. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. On one end, Karlous was saying that homelessness could be stopped if the people at the top who are the elite applied more resources and fixed homelessness. That could stop homelessness. Then on the other end, Karlous, throughout his whole speech, essentially, he has this pull yourselves up by the bootstraps mentality or approach in this conversation. But we're going to continue, girl.
Who office every day and push the button and say, these billions go over here, these billions go over here. That can be ended overnight if the people who were in power decided that that was the priority. Every problem in the world, like, we gotta fix it because it's wrong. Like, no, don't work like that. For homelessness, there is a real answer for a real problem. If you really cared about this, you would vote for the people who could change this. I don't get.
Now, I want you guys to remember him saying, if homelessness was a big concern to you guys, vote for those who can really fix the issue. Remember that, because I will bring that up a little bit later.
I don't get your theory. Are you for it or against it? Am I for what or against it? Homelessness. What do you mean? Why would I be for homelessness?
I don't know why Karlous is offering so much pushback. We just got here. I just feel like a lot of it is just unnecessary. Like, what are you doing? You're disrupting the class. Hush, simmer down, old man. Their philosophy is what?
They can take parking ticket money and end homelessness.
But they're not going to do that, sir.
Right, but we know they're not going to do it. So should we just give up and say, F it? It ain't our problem because we're not the government? No.
They have millions of dollars set aside.
I think everybody was surprised about Karlous' takeover, the homeless bill. How you going to try to come up with a bill that you don't believe in?
You made all that NBA money. You didn't buy none of them homeless people no house. Exactly. So shut your ass up.
Calm down.
You made millions. You could have helped one or two of them ladies.
I gave back to my community.
No, you didn't.
I gave back to my
clothes
community
and some food on the holidays. Did you get them crib? No.
Shit, I could barely buy myself a crib in LA. I bought my mama and myself.
No.
He's just talking out the side of his mouth. It's hard to believe that somebody really thinks like this.
Everybody got
Girl.
problems.
First day of school and somebody's already acting like this. I don't think
And it's the first day.
Why you have a house?
Because I worked really hard.
Now, I want you guys. Now, this is the real issue, and this is the real reason why he holds this belief. I want you guys to pay attention now, girl.
Okay, work that hard though.
Why not?
It's drug addicts that.
But I would like to
They
hear.
chose drugs over home.
Not chose.
Yes, they did. Nobody put that pipe in your lips and made you smoke it.
It's a disease.
Oh, no, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It's a choice.
No, it ain't.
Bro, you are writing a bill.
It's
and
not
then
a
you
disease, it's a
present it
choice.
to a black senator. That's pointless.
And then to present a bill to a black senator. So, before I even get into all the other stuff he said, let's remember I told you guys 2.5 seconds ago to remember Karlous saying in the genesis of his speech that people need to vote certain people in place if they care so much about homelessness. So my question, because also in addition to him saying that, at the end of his speech, he said, then you're supposed to have these bills and they're pushed to melanated senators is ridiculous. So my only question I would have in that regard is, okay, who do you believe should be in place since having, because he generalized it, since having a melanated senator in that position is ridiculous, chaotic, whatever word you want to put there. What other race or ethnicity would you prefer to be in that slot? Because whatever answer he gives, I want to know, and I think it's very comical how he can literally say that on one end in terms of putting another race automatically in that space, despite what their credentials and attribution may be or has been for said community. I think it's very interesting that he would say that, but yet the only thing is that you're living in a system of capitalism which hoards all the resources, which dehumanizes melanated folk, marginalized groups like yourself, black man. But I'm going to continue. Now, the real basis of his stance is that he has this just world approach. What I mean by that? What I mean by that is this, is that when people have this just world approach, they have this idea, this theory, either on a conscious or subconscious level, they have this idea or theory that if this world is a just world, at least in this conversation, he's trying to take that approach, but I'm pretty sure if we have the conversation surrounding George Floyd or Trayvon Martin, this conversation, this approach would all of a sudden disappear. But for this context and this conversation, he's having this context. So when a just world theory is that in this world, the world, you get what you get. So I did some reading. Now, this is my psychology book I have here, but it's something in here called the attribution theory. So it says here, the attribution theory. It says, we believe people get what they deserve. Now, this is the basis for why Karlous believes the way that he believes. Now it says here, people believe that they live in a safe, stable, and orderly world. It says where bad things only happen to bad people and only good things happen to good people. Now, the reason for this is because people blame the victims of misfortune in order to protect themselves from feeling vulnerable. It says people operate under the assumption that people get what they deserve and they deserve what they get. If you listen to Karlous' full speech of why he feels the way that he feels in terms of homelessness, that's the reason why he's having this approach, because on a conscious or subconscious level, he's having he's taking part of the attribution theory and having this idea of a just world in this conversation. He's having that context in this conversation because also in the book, it talks about homelessness. It says homelessness, like many other social problems, is much easier to tolerate or be indifferent to if you believe that people are ultimately responsible for their own misfortunes. So that's the reason why, one of the reasons why that, well, that's the reason why he's having this approach and having his stance. Because whether he knows it or not, that's what's going on in terms of his psychology. Now, another thing as well, too, is that he said a lot of ignorant stuff on, like within his speech, because the thing that gets me too is that a lot of people want to be part of intellectual conversations, and I get it. It's a show, it's College Hill, you're in a college class, you have an opinion, you want to say what you want to say, yada 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 yada. But however, the thing is that if you are not educated on said subject, then you need to do more listening. The issue that I have a lot of times when we get into intellectual conversations, especially when you're in more than like in an intellectual setting, I don't know, maybe like a schoolhouse, a college, if you are not up to par on said subject, then you need to do more listening. And the issue is that a lot of people who are not up to par on said subject do make a lot of statements and assumptions and stand on those statements and assumptions, when in all actuality you need to be having a lot more questions. There needs to be a lot of question marks at the end of your statements. All of your statements need to be in question form, because you're the one who needs to be educated, not everybody else. Like him saying that addiction is a choice, him saying that addiction is not a disease, despite what the research shows, people who have dedicated their lives to uncovering and discovering information regarding addiction. But let me see. So I took it upon myself. I said, let me define disease. So this is what I got strictly on Google. I ain't even go too deep. Disease: a disorder of structure or function in a human, animal, or plant, especially one that has a known cause and a distinctive group of symptoms, signs, and anatomical changes. That's a disease. And addiction is a disease. Based on this specific definition, addiction is a disease. A disorder or of structure or function. Disease, addiction has to do with the brain. It rewires the brain. But we're gonna dig a little deeper. Now it says here. Now I decided to read up a little bit more on addiction. Now this is by Shatterproof Girl, and it says here the science of addiction. Addiction is a treatable mental illness. First things first, addiction is not a moral failing, a choice, or a character flaw. Look, a choice. The language, the same type of language that Carlos was using. Addiction is also referred to as substance use a disorder or an illness. All major health experts agree. The American Medical Association, the National Institutes of Health, the World Health Organization, and more. Treatment for addiction is highly effective. Decades of scientific research show what treatments work best, but one size does not fit all. From personalized plans to therapy and medications, learn what. Okay, this is here. How does addiction affect the body? Now remember, let's get into. Actually, no, I'm gonna do it right. How does addiction affect the body? It has a lot to do with the brain chemistry. The human brain is wired to reward us when we do something pleasurable. exercising, eating, and other behaviors that are directly linked to our survival trigger the release of neurotransmitter called dopamine. This not only makes us feel good, but it encourages us to keep doing what we're doing. It teaches our brains to repeat the behavior. Substances trigger the same part of the brain, the reward system. When someone uses a substance, be it marijuana, opioids, Coca-Cola, and other substances, their brain releases lots of dopamine. This process tells the brain that this is a behavior that should be remembered and repeated. So, not only who uses substances becomes addicted by the process, but if you're already at risk, this is where the cycle of addiction can begin. That's because, according to the National Institutes of Substance Abuse, which is really DRUG, girl, abuse, large urges the dopamine teaches the brain to seek drugs at the expense of other healthier goals and activities. Studies have shown that consistent drug use severely limits a person's capacity to feel pleasure at all. That's because over time, drug use leads to much smaller releases of dopamine. The brain's reward center is less receptive to pleasure and enjoyment, both from drugs as well as from everyday sources like relationships or activities that a person once enjoyed. Once the brain has been altered by drug use, come on, altered. Once the brain has been altered by drug use, it requires more and more of the substance just to function as a baseline level. Now remember, disease, a disorder or structure or function in a human, animal, or plant, especially one that is has a known cause and a distinctive group of symptoms, signs, and anatomical changes. Anatomical, relating to bodily structure, your brain. So yes, it is a disease. But let me continue. An addicted brain causes behavioral changes. So not only does it changes your anatomy in terms of your brain, it also changes your behavior. But let's get a little bit deeper. Brain brain imaging studies from people with substance disorders use disorders show changes in the areas of the brain that are critical to judgment, decision making, learning and memory, and behavioral control. Scientists believe that these changes alter the way that the brain works and may help explain the compulsive and destructive behaviors of addiction. The promising student might see his grades slip. A bubbly social butterfly might suddenly have trouble getting out of bed. A trustworthy sinner might start stealing or lying. Behavioral changes like these are directly linked to a changing brain. Addiction also creates cravings. These cravings can be painful, constant, and distracting. What's more, withdrawal from substances is a painful whole body experience. Once someone is addicted, responding to cravings and avoiding withdrawal become their most important needs. It's not about their background, where they grew up, and how much money they make. Addiction can happen to anyone. Still, researchers have identified that kinds of experiences and biological circumstances can put some people at greater risk than others. Now, here's the thing that I thought was very interesting too, is that also in the article, it literally said that marijuana can also be part of addiction. Just because marijuana isn't classified as a drug, that does not mean you cannot also be addicted to marijuana. Let's be very clear as well. Sex is not considered a drug. But however, people can still be addicted. Alcohol is not considered a drug. That's why it's called drugs and alcohol. It's not considered a drug, but you can still become addicted. So it's very interesting that you, Mr. I'm about to say Karlous King, you, Karlous Miller, can literally take this stance, but yet, if you honestly, sometimes, if you want to be completely honest, someone can argue that you may be addicted to marijuana. But I do want to read. Let me read this. Why do some people get addicted but others don't? Substance use alone does not cause addiction. Addiction is a complex illness that arises in a person based on their unique circumstances. And that's the thing. Him having this idea of it's a choice and all this other stuff. Because the thing is that substance abuse doesn't just happen as in just because someone just automatically, not most times it doesn't just happen because people just want to do drugs. That's not how that works. Typically, the substances that they may use are typically used as a scapegoat to escape from a real issue or problem. These are the most commonly identified risk factors for addiction. Now it says here, biology. Scientific research has shown that 40 to 60% of the likelihood that a person will develop addiction comes from genetics. This includes both a family history of the illness as well as epigenetics, which are the effects environmental factors have on a person's gene expression. Plus, if you have a behavioral health disorder like depression or anxiety, your risk of addiction can also increase. Now, here's the thing too. I'm not gonna lie. My family, my family has a long history of substance and alcohol abuse. That's the reason why, for me personally, I don't smoke nor do I drink. I have tried drinking before. Drink is not really my thing. I've tried it. I just can't get into it. And I've never really tried smoking or anything like that. That's not really my thing. I haven't really tried it. The only thing I can do in terms of drinking is try like the little like the little juices like they have like a little in the little bottle, whatever, but it mostly tastes like juice. You really don't taste the alcohol at all. That's the only thing I can do because that's the only thing that I can stomach. Anything else, rubbing alcohol, I can't do it. I don't know how y'all do it. Y'all just gonna have to do it without me. Now, the reason why I brought all of this up is because my family has a long history of substance abuse and alcohol addiction. And for me, I never wanted to even get too involved in terms of using substances or in terms of really getting addicted to alcohol because I know that my family has a history of substance and alcohol abuse. But let me continue. Now it says environment. It says exposure to, now it says here, this is another factor. Environment. Exposure to traumatic experiences has been shown to increase a person's risk of developing a substance use disorder. These experiences could happen at school, at home, or out in the community. Using drugs for the first time at a young age. Now, this is another factor. Using it for the first time at a young age can also increase addiction risk. Also, snorting or injecting drugs can increase the risk of becoming addicted to those drugs due to the extreme way that the drug is delivered into the body and the quickness with which the feeling fades. So why do some people become addicted and why others don't? Ultimately, the answer lies in a person's unique brain chemistry and lived experiences. Most people who develop addiction are looking to heal or soothe themselves in some way. It's crucial to understand why that is and work to address it as part of a person's treatment plan and journey to recovery. Now, this is the last thing I'm going to read, and then after that, I'm going to actually no, because this is all what Karlous talked about. Now, this is what Karlous went wrong, and it says here, harsh consequences, shame, and punishment are simply not effective ways to heal a person's addiction. A person cannot undo the effects drugs have had on their body chemistry through sheer willpower. Like other chronic illnesses such as asthma or type 2 diabetes, ongoing management of addiction is required for long-term recovery, and there are plenty of evidence-based solutions that can help people with substance use disorders get there. So that's the thing that I need people to understand in terms of Karlous. Like, you are literally shaming a group of people and saying that it's their fault and these things are a choice because you don't want to admit or address that homelessness and keep in mind too, it's also the thing too, it's like just because a person is homeless, that does not mean that they are addicted. And that's another thing. Just because a person is homeless, that does not automatically mean they are crackheads or they are alcoholics or they're addicted to something. You do know that there are veterans who are homeless, who have gone to war to help you fight for your ignorant ass opinion, but yet they're still they are still on the streets. Let's not forget there are hardworking people that, guess what? Because the same way how Karlous literally looked at Tamar Braxton, how do you have a house? And she said, I worked hard. And he was come his approach was this pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality. There are hardworking people who have worked hard for everything that they have in their life. There are hardworking people who have paid all of their bills on time and may have missed a couple of late due dates. But however, nothing was ever repossessed. But guess what happened? There could have been a recession. And guess what? They've been laid off. And next thing you know, they're homeless. That is a reason as well. It's also this is just this assumption that just because a person is homeless, that means they are an addict. There are other reasons why people are homeless. And so this ignorant ass approach, especially when this quote unquote approach can be you at any minute. Let's not forget, you get paid because you have an audience. You get paid because you have supporters, which means that at any given moment, you can lose your support and be blackballed. And then you won't be making any money. You can easily be, anybody can easily be in that situation. Now, I will say this too, because I have experienced homelessness at one point in time, but it wasn't like no long periods of time of being homeless like that. I've only experienced it like for one day, for like one night, because we moved out of our place and our new place wasn't going to be ready to the next following day. So we just had to sleep in the car, thug it out, and the next following day we moved in our place. Long story short, that's what happened. But I do remember this time I was in like I was going to work or I was going somewhere, and I had to get an Uber from, I think I was coming from the gym, and I think I was going to my house, something like that. But I remember I ended up getting an Uber. And when I ended up getting inside my Uber guy came, got inside. Hey, how you doing? I'm doing good. Da, 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 da. Cool. And I don't know what made this Uber person decide to say this ignorant ass to me while I'm in the car with him. So we're driving, and all of a sudden we get to a stoplight. At the stoplight, we chilling, minding my business, kind of bopping my head, whatever. And then all of a sudden, there was this homeless guy, and he was walking, minding his business. It was cool. And the Uber guy just had this disgust in his voice. And honestly, it's the same disgust that I heard in Karlous's voice. It was disgust, and he said, I don't know why they sit up there and be homeless like that. He needs to go get a job. And he just went on a whole little rant. I stayed quiet because I was really just shocked about him just like going on this rant about this homeless man who's not even bothering anyone. And to be completely honest, he wasn't even going up to cars asking for dollars or anything. Like, he was literally just walking, minding his business. And my Uber driver at the time decided to give his opinions, unwarranted opinions, to someone that he does not know. And it was very disgusting. Because I'm like, he needs to go get a job. I'm like, my thing is this: if you already have that mentality and this disgust in your voice, my question is, if you were to see him on the street, would you give him a job? People discriminate against people that are homeless. That is a thing. Yeah, there are people that help people out, but there are a lot of people that discriminate against homeless people, like yourself, sir, the Uber driver. You wouldn't give him a job because you'll judge him on the way that he smells, the way that he looks. Because keep in mind, the man was just literally just walking. But it's just the ignorance that that Karlous has, and it's also the anti-blackness that's very much present and also pestilizing. I want to say white people, putting them on a pedestal, but at the same time, it's like this. Because he said, like I said earlier, he said, if you guys, which he was calling people out, if you guys really cared about homelessness, then what you would do is put people in place that can really fix the issue. Then later on, he literally said and talked about how giving a certain bill to a black senator was just about useless. Then do you believe that a white senator would do much better? Are you referring to the white government officials that pass policies that disrespect your and my melanated bodies? Are you referring to government officials that create laws that slam dunk your black ass in the federal penitentiary? Now, this was supposed to be a hot topics video, but this video kind of ran a little bit too long just on that one situation. So I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna be back. I'll see y'all later. Let me just end this. I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.